food critic MT Wentz is going to come to the diner at some point. They spend a lot of time talking about this.
Plotline.
Oh, Kristen. Oh, your wicked tongue.
Hello, welcome to Guide to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm William. Our little brother. I didn't plan to do that. Kristen. Oh my.
Did you not even plan to do it when you said "and" funny?
No.
And just came out funny, and then you...
Here, you little brother. Oh, everybody, we're back in the world of Twin Peaks.
Yes, we are. We are talking about season 2, episodes 1 through 9, because those are the episodes that conclude the Who Killed Laura Palmer story arc.
Yes, officially.
Yes.
We're going to do what we did last time that we talked about Twin Peaks. We are going to go spoiler-free for a couple of seconds. Mm-hmm. There's very little that we can accomplish without spoiling the show at all.
Yeah.
Then we're going to talk about spoilers for all of Twin Peaks to this point. That's season 1 and now season 2 up to episode 9, which is also given the title Arbitrary Law.
Yeah.
But the titling of Twin Peaks is a mess.
Yeah, it's super, super weird. But it is like kind of, I don't know if you call it colloquially, but like it is kind of known as that online, even though that's not the name that it was officially given. Yeah,
that's something else. I want to real quick apologize to everybody. I hope I didn't lead anyone too astray, but I'd been saying watch the first 16 episodes of season 2 unaware of the naming convention. Episode 9 of season 2 is titled episode 16.
Yeah.
So hopefully I didn't make you watch 16 hours of stuff for this episode.
Right, and I put that in the newsletter too.
What a mess.
Because of that. But yeah, it's like the 16th episode of the whole series overall, but it's not the 16th episode of season 2, so it's just very confusing. Yeah. We'll put a little correction in our last episode, so hopefully you all got the memo.
Yes. But this is ostensibly considered, I guess, like the good part of season 2.
Mm-hmm. Did you come across any like infographics online that were sort of like, so I saw a bunch of things that were like laying out the episodes of season 2, and it'd be like green for all the good episodes.
Yeah.
You saw that? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, and they put it in like yellow for the bad episodes and red for the really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, season 2.
This seemed like this block was kind of universally green across those different infographics.
Yes. Which is interesting. So, like, the sort of, like, meta scuttlebutt is that, when we talked about this last time, which if any of you want to go back and check it out, we talked about season 1 of Twin Peaks in episode 377 of Guide to the Unknown. But David Lynch and Mark Frost, the creators, never wanted to solve the murder of Laura Palmer.
Right.
But ABC, the network, realizing that there was all this audience demand to know, pushed them to reveal who the killer is. And so that's what these first 9 episodes are. It sort of starts with this fun David Lynchy, weirdo vibe, and then a relatively, I don't know, it's interesting. I would call it kind of abrupt when they just reveal the killer and wrap it up.
Yeah, kind of. It's sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot to get into, everybody, but we're going to be talking about the good part of season 2 this week.
Although I do think there are other good parts of season 2.
I'm curious to revisit those in the future.
I'm not too much of a season 2 hater. There are parts of it, definitely. Like within each episode, there are storylines of season 2 where I'm just like, ugh.
I felt that way about season 1.
I did too. So I'm not really a season 2 hater.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it's been a while since I've revisited season 2 on the whole, as you might say.
Yeah.
But you know what? Screw it. I would recommend what we've seen of season 2 easily.
I love season 2. And I loved this block of episodes.
Yeah.
I loved them.
Yeah.
So I strongly recommend these. But I know that I recommend season 2 overall.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think consider that the end of the spoiler-free recommends then, because we really got to get into this.
Yeah.
After this commercial break.
Okay, so briefly, before we get into Twin Peaks, there has been news that has affected the Guide to the Unknown universe, the community, in a huge way that we just want to address just in case you haven't heard of this.
And we've gotten a lot of people that have wanted to hear our response to it, or a lot of DMs from people telling us the news. So we just want you all to let's all get on the same page, in a sense.
Absolutely. So Aaron Goodwin of Ghost Adventures, it has been revealed that there is now an ongoing court case against his wife because she plotted to have him killed.
It's awful.
by a man in prison.
Yeah,
I know, it's terrible.
It's awful. It's confusing. I'm seeing most of the reactions I'm seeing from people. And listen, I get it. You know, Ghost Adventures is a goofy thing. Aaron Goodwin within Ghost Adventures is a goofy
very
guy.
silly.
He's
Yeah.
very silly. He's like Andy from Twin Peaks. He's like big, tall, silly,
Andy.
well-meaning, and kind of childlike.
Is like Andy from Twin Peaks, but that I think that's where the one-to-one comparisons end.
Oh,
because
totally.
It's not like Zach is like Coop.
No. And it sure doesn't sound like Aaron's wife is like Lucy.
No.
So she was, I guess, going to pay something like $11,000 to have him killed.
Yeah, I think it was 11,500, and she made arrangements for the first down payment of 2,500. And I think my understanding is that intention for like, yes, I am making that deposit is what allowed the cops to act.
Yeah, I think
like it
so.
went from like, we're monitoring this situation, because I think that it was like prison mail that like allowed them to see that it was happening.
Right.
And now when it was like, okay, money is about to change hands, or did, or something, it was like, now this is like truly actionable. Like
now it's a crime. We can arrest you.
It's not just talk.
This was all plotted for October of last year, 2024, while he was away filming Ghost Adventures. She
Right.
wanted him to be killed while he's out on location.
Right.
With
so
Zach and everybody.
she sent his schedule to the inmate.
So a lot of the reaction that I'm seeing is people being kind of like, you know, almost humorously in shock or something. But I personally feel, I don't know how you feel, we haven't really talked about this together, but I personally kind of just feel like it's very sad.
It's very, very
It's
sad.
very, very sad to me. I'm glad that he's okay. We make light of that show to no end. We probably won't stop.
No.
But this is
like a
real
sweet
life
man.
stuff,
Yeah.
and that is so upsetting and sad, and I'm glad that he's okay.
Yeah.
That's by and large how I feel.
Yeah.
And unless some crazy new information comes out, I probably wouldn't necessarily want to talk about it then either. If they did it on the show, if we saw Aaron himself talk about it and make light of it, then I would be like, oh, well, the tone has changed. But for me, I'm personally like, this is like personal life, sad misery stuff that is like dragged out for the public eye because he's a public figure.
I know. It's very sad.
Very sad.
I, of course, can't help but think that Zach is probably centering himself in some way.
Do you think so? It's so heavy. Like, don't you hope that he has
I do hope.
enough sort of like sense to not be like, maybe a demon came back?
Not in that
Don't
way.
insert yourself, Zach. Leave it alone.
Not in that way. I don't think he's saying a demon inhabited. Well, I don't know. I don't really think so.
I don't have a lot of faith in Zach, but I hope that he has enough wherewithal to leave it alone.
Yeah. I would hope so, but
Anyway, the point is, we are aware of the situation. We, of course, will not be able to stop ourselves privately from being glued to the headlines of the situation.
right. But
As of right now, I think it's just a private, sad matter surrounding a celebrity guy.
yeah,
You know,
no, it's terrible. I feel
terrible.
sad for him. He seems like a very sweet man, and I can't imagine how blindsided he must feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was like, there was some vague quote of him being like, I thought I was just in a happy marriage.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I guess he said that to TMZ or something.
Yeah. Listen, we'll see what happens next. For all I know, it's going to be a Gene Hackman situation where every other day somebody's like, and this too. Oh, and it's like the medical examiner was glancing up periodically and going like, get TMZ on the phone. Now I think it might have been poison. And then hangs up the phone and then does a little more work and goes, get TMZ on the phone. Now I think. I felt like information about that kept coming in contradictory waves every minute of every day.
The first day or two, that was like all I could think about because I could not figure out what must have happened there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's conclude the news portion and get into happier things.
Yes.
You should all be posting, hey, at GTTU pod, I want to survive the night.
Yeah.
My serial killer, kind of.
Right.
Slasher comic book choose your own adventure book is hitting shelves on the 18th.
Yeah.
Links in the notes. You could win one of 5 copies the publisher is sending out if you tag us on social media with at GTTU pod, I want to survive the night. I'll be drawing names on Monday the 17th. Enter, and that's from the happier news corner of our world.
Totally. All right, great. So, Twin Peaks season 2?
Twin Peaks season 2.
So how did it hit you? Did you enjoy?
I did enjoy. I loved it. I personally found out about the episode 16 confusion by trying to watch 16 episodes.
Right.
And so now we're in the spoiler section of talking about
Yes.
what happens in these 9 episodes.
Yes.
Not in the greater beyond this stuff. So I'm going to say it.
Right.
When Leland Palmer is revealed as the killer,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that happens this early? I thought I had to wait for 7 more hours for this to wrap up.
Yeah.
And I probably watched a good 3 or 4 additional episodes beyond Leland before I was like,
why am I doing this?
why am I
thought
doing
we
this?
were
Is
just
done?
Yeah.
It's got to be done. No one's even talking about Leland anymore. And then that was when I figured it out. So I've got a blurry mess in my head of what happens in what order.
Right.
But I will tell you, obviously, I greatly enjoyed it. I think Ray Wise, the actor who plays Leland in particular, I'm like, oh my God. Him alone, you got to watch the show.
He is so incredibly good. You cannot take your eyes off of him.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. Some of the like monologues that they give him. He is so effective at well, some of the dialogue that they give him, right? Like when you think that he's innocent, at least you know that he's guilty of having killed Jacques Renault at the end of season 1. That was one of our cliffhangers who killed Jacques Renault. Well, it was Leland. And when he sort of admits that he had done it,
Yeah.
he gives a speech where one of the lines is like, have you ever experienced total loss?
Yeah.
He's like, I am not talking about grief. He's talking about like, why did he kill the person that killed his daughter? And that performance of a grief-stricken father who killed who he ostensibly believes may have murdered his daughter, that's unbelievable. Then when you start to reveal, oh my God, Leland is possessed by Bob, who I guess is an avenging evil spirit thing.
Well, he's not avenging. He's just pleasure seeking.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But like once you get that like Jekyll and Hyde Leland, I don't think I've ever seen
He's
anyone
off the charts.
I've never seen anything like this anywhere else in the world.
I completely agree. I can't believe how great it is. I haven't rewatched this in a few years.
Yeah.
And it absolutely blew my hair back. I couldn't get over it. Like when Cooper and Harry come to tell him that they've arrested Ben Horn.
Yeah.
And so he's possessed by Bob, but he's also like a little Leland in there or whatever. That's also kind of an interesting, confusing line.
I know. We can talk about that. And that's something that'll continue in the future of the series to some extent without getting too much into it. It's like, what's the line between your two halves inside of you? Leland is embodying that here a lot.
Yeah, totally. But so there's a point where Leland kind of like walks away from them and he's acting like he's crying from behind, but really he's like cracking up and delighted because somebody else has been arrested for this. And Ray Wise's face is just it must be seen to be believed. It is like evil and delighted, and it's certainly acting. I'm not taking any of that away from him, but also just the way that he looks. He's got a lot to work with.
Yeah.
He's got a great mouth. He's got great eyes. He's got this great big mouth to work with.
He is serving mouth.
He is. He's giving mouth. He's got this great palate to work with. It was so goddamn good.
It's out of control. And he's
also,
like sweaty and
yeah.
his hair has now gone like a shock gray after last season, which is like some Twin Peaks weirdness.
Yes.
He's reintroduced in this season singing Mersey Dotes.
Yeah.
Which I remember from our childhood.
Oh, totally.
Dad used to sing this all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Mersey Dotes and Dozy Dotes and little lambs eat ivy. And the point of the song is to be nonsense.
Right.
It sounds like words because it sounds like you're saying mares eat oats.
Well, it sounds like you're saying mares
eat
eat oats, and it's actually mares eat oats.
Oh, I thought it was you are saying mares eat oats, but it sounds like it could be words too. Either
No, you got it right this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way, actually, you want to look at it. It's that song is about either nonsense that sounds like words or words that sound like nonsense, and that's like what Twin Peaks is.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
And he walks in singing it. Now Ben Horn just abruptly gets up and starts tap dancing on his desk.
Sometimes he's like very game, Ben Horn, and sometimes he's like, enough of this guy.
Well, let me float something your way about the magic of Twin Peaks. I talked in 377 in season 1 about like people seem to know that Laura Palmer's dead before anyone officially says it, almost as if there's this radiating emotion aura that affects people.
Yeah.
Leland walks in singing, and it's never, not that Ben's not weird.
Yeah.
But like, did he almost compel or affect these men to all of a sudden feel his joy?
Maybe.
And start dancing abruptly?
Maybe. It's really only that time, though, because other times he does it, they're like, ugh.
I know.
This guy's too much.
We need a new lawyer.
But maybe.
Please kill Leland.
Yeah.
Ben wants his brother Jerry to kill Leland
yeah,
for a
totally.
minute.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so weird.
Yeah.
Trying to make sense of the weirdness is like the antithesis of enjoying Twin Peaks. But they're just sometimes...
sometimes it's fun too. You know what I mean?
Yes, right. Yeah, that's true.
Like
that's
to
true.
just try to puzzle it out. But he's just, during those scenes where he is Bob and finding out about Ben being arrested and everything, all of him like holding in his laughter like a weird little kid. It's so disturbing, so creepy and so good. And he's pulling a lot of very like Nicholson-y faces.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other people have drawn these lines and stuff. It made me think about The Shining a ton. And there are like a lot of parallels here. It's two dads who've lost their marbles, inhabited by other forces, in hotels at that moment.
Oh,
exactly.
Interesting. Yeah.
Surely people have pointed this out, but and like going after their families.
That's a great point. I don't think I even wrote it down. I got a The Shining vibe somewhere, and it was literally just even about like the editing or the pacing or something. That's interesting. I don't know why I haven't thought about it that way. It feels very obvious.
Yeah.
Now that you've said it, but you're right. Leland is kind of like Jack Nicholson, and honestly,
and like
all
Jack
like the
Torrance, like
Yeah. All like the evil smiling.
Yeah, it's a lot of evil smiling.
Yeah.
And seriously, you're right, it comes up later in season 2, but like, so, at this point that we're kind of talking about right now, where it's like Bob is in Leland, like he's still singing and dancing and stuff, which seems very Leland-esque. Like, it's not Bob who's singing Surrey with a Fringe on Top in the car, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't feel like that's Bob's bag.
Definitely catch you with his death bag.
That's true. That's another place where I was like, this is so good. Remember from the what's it called? The extended pilot, where you hear the entirety of that poem, and it's look, God love him, Frank Silva doing it in the basement of the not the hotel, of the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? So that whole entire poem that he kind of reads, or whatever you want to call it, a poem. I mean, it's not long, but first it's Philip Gerard who says it, but it's, through the darkness of futures past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, walk with me. And then in the extended pilot, you see Bob, who is, his essence that you see in mirrors and stuff is that guy with the long, stringy gray hair. His name is Frank Silva, and he was, I think it was a set.
Yeah, it's like a set decorator.
Yeah, or whatever. But who was also trying to be an actor. So then it's like part of the lore of Twin Peaks. I'm sure we talked about it in the previous episode. He was just kind of caught by the mirror in some scenes, and David Lynch liked it and was like, okay, let's keep him in, and kind of like incorporated him into this. But he's not like a trained actor who was hired to be an actor in this. So when he's talking,
it's like
and
Tim
stuff,
and Eric acting, like he's like, it doesn't come across authentically. He's an interesting presence when he's cackling and laughing and stuff, and he's got a good but I'm also confused.
Unnerving.
I mean, Bob's a whole mess to get into, but well, whatever, continue.
So they have him in the extended pilot. The extended pilot can play like its own movie. Like, it all kind of wraps up, even though it's not super neat. But they find the killer, Bob, and he's in the basement of the hospital and stuff. And when they find him, he says the rest of this poem is basically, and it's Frank Silva saying it, and it just doesn't like hit that well. He's like, "I will get you with my death bag. You may think I've gone insane, but I promise that I'll kill again," or whatever. And then when Ray Wise does it at the end of episode 9, our last episode, he's like screaming it out, and where it felt really just kind of like, okay, these are weird words that guy said at the end of the extended pilot. It sounds creepy and intense and like, what the hell is going on here when Ray Wise does it?
Yeah.
And I just think it's amazing.
When they have caught him, because they basically,
I loved this. I absolutely loved it.
they basically have to like trick Bob.
I loved that
Bob
too.
Leland, you know, so they've arrested Ben Horn. Because Ben's a mess too. Ben evidently, he reveals that he had slept with Laura Palmer.
Yeah, and he has a picture of Laura on his desk.
What? No one noticed this?
Excuse me?
The moment they reveal it is like him saying that he slept with her. But like, if he's had a picture of Laura Palmer on his desk this whole time, his daughter's friend, 17-year-old Laura Palmer.
That's so weird.
You arrest Ben Horn in episode 1.
Totally. That's not good at all.
No. But so they've arrested Ben Horn and told Leland, we've arrested him for the murder of your daughter. And then now Leland is going to be his lawyer. So he goes with Ben Horn into the basement of the sheriff's station where they've got cells, I guess. And before they're going to put Ben into the cell, they all shove Leland in and slam the door behind him.
Yeah.
And Leland's animal caught in a trap acting. It's literally that. It's literally as if you caught a wild animal.
Feral. He
in
goes
a basket.
Absolutely nuts and just starts screaming and like thrashing around. And
running
they're all
back
like,
and forth.
okay, now we're seeing
yes,
this.
It's true. Like, and it's so interesting to be like, it's like the jig is up acting a little bit too, because Leland or Bob or whatever he is at this point, must realize that he's lost, and there's no sense in remaining poised and being like, fellas, let me out. Like he doesn't go that way. He goes completely insane, literally bouncing off the walls. Screaming and stuff, and then hooting like an owl.
Yes.
Which goes along with the owls are not what they seem thing. I guess the owls are Bob or are evil spirits or are his eyes out around Twin Peaks so he can see everything.
Yeah.
They'll sort of
It's so crazy. They ask him a question and he starts hooting and he's like, that means yes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
I think they say like, did you kill Laura Palmer or something like that. He goes, hoo. That means yes.
Yeah.
He just like, but that like turning on a dime.
Yes.
From like Looney Tunes to straight faced is also like a Ray Wise, like
he's so good.
I want to see him in everything. Why don't you see him in everything?
I don't know.
What is this?
I don't know.
Is this a case of like a role being like an albatross around a performer's neck? Because I would look at this and be like, this is an example of why you'd want to cast him in everything
every single
you do.
Thing. I know. I don't know. I'm really not sure. I didn't look into it. I don't know.
He's outstanding. Similar to talking about like,
he didn't want to do other stuff. Maybe he was like, I'm good.
Yeah, totally.
Who
That's
knows?
entirely possible. Last time we talked about Grace Zabriskie and how I found her performances to be so like raw to the point of being uncomfortable, which is part of the goal.
Yeah, totally.
And like really like being like, she's amazing for how I don't want to watch her.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's sort of the same, but I mean, I want to watch him about Ray Wise.
Yeah, you like cannot take your eyes off him. I think I said that before, but that's how I felt. I was like glued.
Yes, as much as Twin Peaks is a weird world full of weird people, a lot of whom can't act and are given weird stuff to do.
Yeah.
The like handful of performances that are really good are really good. It's so much fun to watch Leland.
Oh my God, it's insane. I want to mention we did it was a long time ago now. I think we read an ad for a show that was about like the intersection of the paranormal and like the trans experience called Liminal. It's on YouTube, and Ray Wise was on the first episode doing a ghost hunt with them.
Oh, interesting.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, it rings a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a cool guy.
I know. I'd be curious to learn more about him or watch some of his other stuff.
Yeah.
I just like him. But so this is though where I'm also like that he dies.
Right.
I don't know. So
look, Cooper reads this, or not reads. He says this long thing about like going into light or whatever. He must have like been able to sense just intuitively that Leland was dying, because all appearances from the outside just said this guy had a boo-boo on his head. So to everybody else, like they know how Cooper is, so it's just like, okay, we're gonna trust him here. But it looks so nuts that like Leland is, you know, obviously he's in crisis. He's dealing with the fact that he's like now remembering that he killed Laura and all of that. But then it's kind of sudden that he seems physically okay, and then all of a sudden Cooper is like, go into the light. Go into that good night where pain knows not. And it's like, wait, what?
What are you talking about?
He looks okay.
Are you psychically killing this man, Coop?
Right.
Like, are you removing his soul from an otherwise healthy body and sending it into the great beyond?
He's dying.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And this is where I don't know who you blame.
Mm-hmm.
ABC wants you to solve the murder, and you don't want, as the creator, you don't want it solved.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, for whatever reason, ABC wins, okay?
Yeah.
And you're going to reveal who the killer is. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to now wash your hands of the entire storyline. There is an avenue where Leland is revealed as the killer and only the audience knows.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a Columbo situation.
Right.
Which they do for one episode to good effect, which is fun, of like seeing Leland out free.
It's like 2.5 episodes. I actually thought that was a little bit too long.
Too long?
I kind of think so. I love knowing who the killer is when like everybody else doesn't, but I kind of think that they should have had that like in one episode and then it happens in the next one.
That's how I thought it was. Yeah, that's interesting.
You find out that because he kills Maddie and all that.
Oh, that's
like,
so good too.
That's unreal. That's like one of the most disturbing things in like a TV show or maybe in all media to me. It's just so incredibly brutal and just full of dread. And just like
the record skipping sound.
Dread it whenever it comes up, even though I also kind of love it.
Yeah.
It is unbelievably awful.
Yeah.
But
to
just
see
like,
a truly
so
innocent person be getting punched in the face.
It's just so brutal. And just exactly, she's so innocent. She thinks this is her uncle who she can totally trust. He's just so unhinged. There's nothing that's like hidden about it. It's just you in your, it's not her actual house, but let's say for all intents and purposes, it's you in your house with a parental figure who is just now turning on a dime. They didn't sneak up on you in any way or anything. It's just all of a sudden this is happening.
I'm going to kill you now.
That is so terrifying. And in the most brutal way. It's face to face, punching in the face. Like her mind must have just snapped. And like they keep cutting to it's Bob, but you know it's happening to her in real life being Leland. Like to use the word kissing makes it, I don't even like calling it that, but he's glomming on her and stuff. It's so disturbing. Oh my God. But that happens in episode 7. So then we have episode 8, and then at the end of episode 9 is when he
dies. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that is too much.
I think so.
But you could still have him just be alive and in jail.
Totally.
You could have Hannibal Lecter Leland.
Totally.
You could toy with like he's been caught and he's got the two halves of him. Sometimes you're talking to Bob, sometimes you're talking to Leland.
I completely agree.
Bob leaves Leland and you get the whole metaphor of like, well, where's Bob now? Which is what 9 concludes on. But Leland is still like a shell of himself or something. All I'm saying is that for 9 to end so conclusively on we caught him and he's dead.
Yeah.
And now my recollection is, and we'll get into this whenever we do the second half of season 2, is that pretty much just no one ever talks about this again.
Pretty much.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's so strong for 9 episodes, but I wish that I felt confident of there being more.
Yeah.
You know,
if I remember right, I think that the kind of behind the scenes of it was like, if you want us to wrap up the Laura Palmer storyline, then we're going to wrap it up and move on.
Well, then that's effectively killing the show.
It totally is.
Losing Ray Wise is losing a great ingredient of the stew I've been eating.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's true.
I couldn't agree more. Like Mark Frost and David Lynch were pretty disillusioned with ABC and the whole thing by that point. So they there are lots of like other directors who come in. They were like pissed about having to do this, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And so they were like, fine, we're gonna wrap it up. And because also like the fact that they didn't want to wrap it up means that they wanted to focus on other things. It wasn't necessarily that they wanted to have, 6 seasons of us constantly working to find out who killed Laura Palmer, but never learning who it was. They wanted to focus on other aspects of the town. So we're going to solve who kills Laura Palmer. Then we're going to move on to focusing on the other aspects of the town that we were going to be looking at anyway.
Well,
I think it's a mistake.
They're
I certainly
pretty
wish.
Terrible. Yeah.
I know. I certainly wish that they didn't do that. But that's my understanding, is that they were like, all right, if it's solved, then it's solved.
Yeah, and this ingredient is gone.
Bummer.
It's what offsets the rest of the show just being kind of quirky and weird, is that occasionally you'd come back to the investigation of the murder of Laura Palmer. By wrapping it up and not having that thread at all, then the rest of the show is just silliness.
Well, to a degree, it's a lot of silliness, but
it's a lot of silliness for a good long while. Basically, my recollection is until David Lynch comes back. It's just mostly silliness.
He doesn't come back until like the last episode.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember having great feelings about what comes after this.
A lot of it sucks.
Yeah.
Most of it sucks, honestly. Even though it's also silly, I do really like the Wyndham Earl storyline.
So do I. I do like that. I was surprised in this batch of episodes to see that Wyndham Earl, Agent Cooper's former partner, who went evil in some way we don't know yet, has escaped.
Right.
And he's out. That's said in, I think, episode 1.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, like they reference Wyndham Earl in David Lynch directed episodes.
Yeah.
So he knew of the Wyndham Earl storyline. He co-signed this Wyndham Earl storyline.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. And similarly, I feel like maybe Nadine doesn't wake up in a David Lynch episode. He directed 3 episodes of what we watched for this.
Yeah.
He directed episodes 1 and 2 of season 2.
Yeah.
And as you said, he also directed episode
7.
Yeah. Lonely Souls is the pseudo title for it or whatever.
Then did he direct episode 9 with Leland?
No.
Yeah.
No, which is kind of surprising to me. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know. I wonder if it was Mark Frost. I know he directed some. You feel like you would probably want one of the creators to handle that one,
but honestly, even though it's a big reveal and it's really, really good, I think that episode 7 is like, that's a huge one.
That episode. So in between of like, I have a lot to say about like how season 2 kicks off, but just to sort of like touch on a couple of things, like episodes 1 and 2 of season 2, I think are really strong and fun and weird and get more into the surreal lore. You introduce another figure from this magic world, the giant, who gives, Cooper hints about like, the owls are not what they seem. Yeah, really trippy stuff. But then you do get into some of like kind of the nonsense of like watching what's her face? Who's Laura Palmer's friend?
Donna?
I couldn't think of the name Donna.
Yeah.
It's like Donna now is trying to be tough and smoke cigarettes, kind of like Audrey Horne did, and her relationship with James, and she's going to do Meals on Wheels now, and like it's just like a lot of...
What do you think of Harold? Harold the orchid guy.
What do I think of Harold?
Yeah.
I think every time I see Harold, I'm looking at my watch.
No, I don't like this guy.
There's an agoraphobic fella.
Harold is not for me.
Who is said to have been one of the people that Laura Palmer sort of confided in. Laura Palmer, who had more time than anyone. Laura Palmer had like 48 hours in a given day.
I know. It was incredible.
I listened to, really between seasons 1 and 2, something happened.
Yeah.
Season 1 ended, and before season 2 even began, they released a book, The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer. And it was written by Jennifer Lynch, David Lynch's daughter. And she was essentially going to give voice to Laura Palmer and what her life was and why she did everything she did and what she was feeling. And it suggested that it would give hints about, the greater mystery around her.
Yeah.
I listened to it, and it is so disturbing.
Yeah.
It's so like upsetting and graphic.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I did not revisit it, but I have read it.
Yeah. And, I don't know if I would recommend the book, to be completely honest. But like this diary is said to be what she gives to Harold Smith to hold on to.
Right.
So it holds all these clues about Laura Palmer's...
I don't like Harold having that.
Neither do I. But it holds the clues about
Harold?
her drug use and... abuse.
Yeah.
And stuff with Leo and stuff with Bob.
Lots of sexual activity.
Bob is writing to her in the book
Right.
through her own writing, which
Right.
doesn't necessarily track with anything.
Totally.
The dates are wrong, given the canon of the show. It's messy and it's dark in a way that that Twin Peaks wouldn't be until the movie Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah.
It must have been a tonal shock if you watch season 1 and then read the book. And
in real time.
Is like an NC-17, know, in tone experience.
Right.
But so Harold
Written
has
from
this.
the perspective of a teenage girl.
Yes.
I don't like Harold having that. I don't like his living novel. This guy's so pretentious. I kind of want to know how he's drawing lovers to him. It must be through some sort of mail order service. He's super into orchids.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah,
it's a way to. This is like a complaint that I
do like it when he scratches himself with that trowel.
It looks so bad.
It looks terrible. It clearly has been dipped in ketchup. You can see it when he's holding it in his hand to the side.
Yes.
Because Donna and Maddie like hatch a plan to steal the diary from him, and he catches them in the act. And then he's like, "How could you do this to me? I can't trust anybody." And he's holding this. It's not a trowel. A trowel is like
shovel.
A little shovel.
Yeah, it's like a little garden digger.
Yeah.
It's a garden weasel.
Yeah, it's a garden weasel. And he's holding it in his hand. You can see that it's got like red stuff, like when it's off to the side. And then he's like, and like drags it along his cheek and just like leaves the red trails.
Just rubs ketchup on his face using a garden weasel.
Yeah.
And it's so scary.
Yeah.
I bet if you're not streaming it on high quality Paramount
I'm
Plus,
sure that's true.
with as many Trivago commercials as they can cram down your throat.
I forgot to give you my login. So
if you're watching it in the 90s on a grainy CRT TV, maybe you didn't notice.
I'm sure that's the case, genuinely.
But forever, it'll be remembered as that scary scene where Harold rubs a garden weasel on his face.
Yeah, with ketchup on
ketchup all over it.
Yeah.
So stupid.
It's so
well, all
funny.
that, what I was sort of trying to say is like all the goofy subplots. When David Lynch comes back for episode 7 of the season, somehow his ability to see through the horse shit or find the good in something, Donna and James sitting at a booth at the Roadhouse is compelling when David Lynch does it.
Right.
And never when anyone else does it.
Totally.
The
vibe shift is palpable.
It really is.
Yeah.
And
it feels like a movie all of a sudden, like episode 7.
Yes, it's back to feeling like cinematic.
Yeah.
Their performances are terrific.
Yeah, it's not even like the camera work or something I'm talking about. Like everything just feels different and heightened in a really great way.
Yes, which is like all this silliness can work well if the person if there's somebody at the wheel who's got like a distinctive angle or vision to it. Or I mean, the idea that all of a sudden David Lynch makes me care about James Hurley is unreal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And Donna, who I have to admit, like I just kind of I'm unimpressed by her teen investigation. Audrey is sidelined.
Yeah, totally.
Pretty hardcore. Her whole thing of like being at One-Eyed Jack's is grim and dark.
Very grim.
But in a way where it's like it feels like a kid production thing. It's like the people at One-Eyed Jack's get her hooked on heroin.
Yeah.
And then Cooper gets her cleaned up pretty quickly.
I know. Dude, sweet.
Like within 12 hours, she's like, finally over the junk.
I know.
I was like, what?
I know.
Did any of that really happen?
Yeah.
Like it.
Good thing.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to potentially get into greater full show spoilers, or what do you want to do?
Let's see. I don't know. I don't think that's time for that yet.
No?
To be totally honest.
All right. What do you want to talk about?
Well, first, I think we got to talk about Patreon.
Okay. Very well.
Patreon.com/GTTUpod. This is where you can go if you want to support the show and get a ton of stuff back for doing so. Because we actually have a second weekly podcast that comes out every Monday. It's called the Netherworld Dispatch. And we cover all kinds of different stuff over there. We do a lot of reacting to things. We'll cruise around the internet and find things to talk about. We'll check out different shows like Unsolved Mysteries and what's called Beyond Belief.
Yeah.
It's still what you know and love about Guides to the Unknown, but we kind of expanded a little bit on the Netherworld Dispatch in a different way, and people seem to really, really like it.
Yes.
So that's worth checking out. On Patreon, we also have movie commentaries. There's a Discord that people are talking in every day. We have a newsletter. So go check it out. Give it a browse.
It's super fun. When you sign up for any of those tiers that get the Netherworld Dispatch, you're not just getting future episodes, you're also unlocking the entire archives of everything, which is super fun. Like, I've started thinking about it as just like a vault of us talking about horror stuff.
Yeah.
So patreon.com/GTTUpod. It is so much fun.
Yep. You also get ad-free episodes of this show, by the way, starting at the $4 tier and up. All the ads are removed from just regular Guides to the Unknown, so you don't have to fast forward anything anymore.
Yep. And you'd be supporting a 2-person business.
Yep.
Where we're really just trying to do what we love. And thank you so much to all of you who support us in doing it.
Yes.
We truly greatly appreciate it.
Yes.
The most recent episode of the Netherworld Dispatch is... What did we talk about? I didn't write it down, and my memory is garbage. Hold on a second. What did we talk about?
I'm trying to picture the logo.
What did we do? How did I forget?
Oh, duh. Into the Woods.
How could I forget? We were traumatized by this.
That's right. We did a little companion piece to last week's Guides to the Unknown episode about Cinderella in No White. God damn it.
No White. This is where it's like, I think genuinely this is how we can exemplify perfectly that doing the show is kind of like keeping a diary yourself.
Yeah.
I sort of put thoughts in the shows and then they kind of leave me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on in life. We got to offload some of it somehow.
Yes. And so we put all of our anxieties about this Broadway show into the woods in this episode. Yeah. It's a show that we each saw as kids. Kristen saw it in person, but we watched it constantly at home on laser.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you sure did. Saw a couple of people in person. But so we talked about how like the big bad wolf is basically like a big furry suit with abs.
Yes.
And an anatomical front piece.
Yeah. Seriously.
There's a woman who gets bludgeoned partway through the show and then seems like neurologically
impaired for a little while, talks for a minute, and then finally dies standing upright.
It's insane. And then you imagine young Chrissy and Willie sitting watching it on TV.
Loving it repeatedly.
Oh.
It was on PBS all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty bad stuff. Go check it out. That's episode 204 of the Netherworld Dispatch. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Totally.
We also love reading reviews. I've got a doozy here from Bolafet, who says, great podcast. I found this podcast because Will was on another podcast I like. Tell him, Steve Dave.
Oh, great.
This pod is great. I have something new to listen to now at work. 5 stars.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Bolafet. Glad you enjoyed my work on Tell 'em Steve Dave.
Yes.
Everybody consider leaving a 5-star review or, be honest to yourself. So 5 stars.
Right. Of course.
And you might have it read on a future episode of the show. And for our purposes, it makes us look good and it makes us feel good, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much to everybody who does that. Thank you so much to everybody who shares the show with friends, tags us on Instagram. All of that really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a commercial break and come back and talk more Twin Peaks. Hang on. Okay, thanks for hanging on.
Did you stay with us? Anyway, all right. So, what are some of the other things? Because I've got Mike written down, like as something to talk about. Garland Briggs.
Yeah, there's.
I know there's definitely stuff, but yeah, I.
Oh, in a larger sense, you mean?
I know I have a lot to say in a larger sense, but we can all still table that a little bit.
I have just stray thoughts I'd like to address.
Please, by all means.
It's crazy when Donna takes on the Meals on Wheels route and she goes to visit I don't even pronounce it. Is it Tremons?
Tremons. Tremont?
They say Tremont early on, I think, and then later on say something else. And I was like, oh, I think I was wrong. But anyway, she has absolutely no reaction to what can only be literal magic when David Lynch's son somehow transfers the creamed corn from a plate to his hands. She goes, that's nice.
Do you see creamed corn on that plate? It's another Seinfeld performer. So many Seinfeld
rye.
Performers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me that whole bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's got creamed corn on her plate, but then a young David Lynch across the room all of a sudden is holding it in his bare hands.
And she says, that's nice.
That's nice.
That's only actual magic that has happened right in front of her.
That is the equivalent of Cooper going to the Red Room. Right? Like Donna You're right.
She's been to the Red Room.
Why doesn't she talk about that at all?
That's huge. That is huge.
That's huge.
Can you imagine that happening in front of you?
No.
What would happen? Your mind would collapse in on itself. It's impossible for that to happen.
We've seen incredible things.
But
and then you
creamed
just
corn?
And then you just kind of go like, I don't know. Well, clearly you can't teleport creamed corn. So they did something.
That
I don't know.
plate was clean.
I know. It looked
There
like
wasn't
it was
even a
clean.
niblet stuck to the side of the mashed potatoes or anything.
Hey, what is creamed corn?
It's like corn.
And cream?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
I think it's like fine. I don't know. It's
Sounds awful to me.
Yeah, I'm not looking to eat that.
Garmonbozia.
Garmonbozia. Another thing actually that's like I thought was interesting, that's like a physical manifestation of something happening that is proof that this is all super, super real, is later on, I think it's actually right before they have confirmation that it's like Leland and everything. When there's that scene where Cooper has assembled like all of the suspects in the roadhouse.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
It's so good. In the last episode with what's his name? Miguel Ferrer, but in the show, what's his
Albert
name?
Rosen.
Albert and everybody.
Yeah.
And Albert has said like
Rosenberg or Rosenfeld?
Rosenfeld.
Yeah.
Has said like, do whatever voodoo you do so well or whatever. He's like, do whatever you need to do. We need to like lock this guy up because they've found that Maddie's been killed.
Yeah.
All of that. Cooper finally realizes that it's Leland. And at that point, the giant gives his ring back to him.
Yeah, so
His
in the
ring-
beginning of season 1, the giant takes a ring from Coop, gives him clues
Yeah.
about the owls are not what they seem. Without chemicals, he points, and there's a man in a smiling bag.
Yep.
And he says that he'll return the ring when Cooper makes all the connections.
Yeah. So Cooper makes the connections. He knows that it's Leland now.
Because Leland is talking to this elderly waiter and is like, is that the gum you're chewing? I used to love that gum. And
Right.
the elderly waiter goes, that gum you like is coming back in style, which is what the man from another place said in season 1. So we're pretending that all these things make sense together, but regardless, Cooper is like,
And
boom.
it causes Cooper to he remembers that the man from another place said that, and then Cooper remembers what Laura Palmer whispered into
Right.
his ear.
That's right.
During that Red Room scene, which is, my father killed me.
Yes.
Then Leland's like, oh my God, okay, got it. And so then the giant he physically gives his ring back. His ring clatters to the floor. So that's like physical weird proof from another dimension. This isn't now just metaphysically happening in Coop's head.
Yeah.
It's not only dreams and whatever. Something physical has come from the air and fallen in front of
Plunked down to
Cooper.
the ground.
It's proof of weird shit from another dimension that we haven't had before. We've been before just going off of Coop's like visions and what he's saying and stuff, and now something has materialized in front of us.
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting. I didn't remember that transactional thing of give me your ring and I'll return it to you.
Yeah.
There's also the fact that Bobby Briggs's dad, Major Garland Briggs, comes to Cooper and says that he's like, I can't tell you the things that I do, but I monitor.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I love that.
He says that he monitors deep space,
Or
like
something.
signals or whatever. He goes, and then we transcribe it down. It's space garbage, he says. But all of a sudden this morning, at the time that Cooper was shot,
Yeah.
which was the season 1 cliffhanger, he goes, if you look at it here, like it's all numbers. He's showing Cooper on paper. It goes from what seemed like random numbers to all of a sudden words. The owls are not what they seem.
Right.
Which is one of the things the giant said at approximately that time, because the giant appeared to Cooper after he was shot.
Yep.
And then it says Cooper, 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 3 Coopers.
Right.
And
The hell's
there are
that?
also way more,
Yeah.
but they don't acknowledge that. But so that's Garland Briggs, like ostensibly
Yeah.
a scientifically minded
Right.
professional who's in, I guess, some form of military or whatever.
It's part of like some secret program.
Yeah.
It seems like.
But he's acknowledging on paper, like, our government research
Yes,
is
true.
revealing this signal is confirming what the giant said to you.
Right.
Which, like, would otherwise just seem to Cooper like a vision. Like, I saw a giant in my room, he says. And, like,
Right,
is
but
that
now
him
he's getting outside confirmation.
getting outside
Yes.
confirmation there as well.
Yes.
Which I wonder is, like, at that time, is the giant communicating to Cooper on a frequency that only this weird deep space technology stuff can pick up.
Right.
And therefore, are these things aliens or from another dimension or rippling our sort of like wavelength of reality?
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, did the giant know that Garland Briggs would have that information on the paper, so he's giving Cooper a hint about it by saying the owls are not what they seem? Or did the giant say to Cooper, the owls are not what they seem, unaware that Garland Briggs has this thing that can sort of transcribe communications of people from the other dimensions?
Wait, what are you saying about Garland Briggs? Like, what did he know?
What did the giant know? Is the giant saying to Cooper, the owls are not what they seem, because in the future, Garland Briggs is going to show Cooper a piece of paper that says the owls are not what they seem?
Oh.
Or was Garland Briggs' machine just tuning into the radio frequency of the giant talking at that moment by happenstance?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I've always thought it was that it tuned in to the frequency of whatever. But it's just so fun to think about
all of
it.
I love it.
I love it. Also, who would have thought that Squiggy would be such a recurring character on Guides to the Unknown?
Mr. Pincus.
Yeah. Was surprised to see. I think that he hasn't really stood out to me as a person until you had such a reaction to him.
I love Squiggy. How do you not like Squiggy?
I would say I have no feelings to negative feelings about Squiggy.
Negative?
He's like annoying.
Yeah. I don't see the problem with that.
Right. But so now, upon this watch, after your big reaction to Squiggy showing up in Scary Movie,
Scaremuto,
now he really popped off to me, and I was like, wow, this guy's really a presence.
Yeah, he's working.
In Guide to the Unknown.
He's working.
No, look, I'm not going to begrudge him a buck. I'm just saying.
I've been monitoring this deep space garbage, but see here, Scaremuto.
Scaremuto. So ridiculous.
There's another Scaremuto coming in the future.
The Mr. Tajimura thing is insane. It's absolutely insane.
That ain't right.
No, it ain't right.
Where's the fix your hearts or die
for that
about Mr. Tajimura?
That's crazy.
Catherine Martell.
It just can't go unremarked upon is all.
Dude, Catherine Martell. First of all, in episode 377, when we're talking about season 1, I keep referring to Josie Packard. I keep saying Josie Packard is boring when I meant Catherine Martell. Oh, she's also boring.
Okay, yes.
But holy
I
crap,
do agree
is
about both,
Catherine Martell boring?
Yeah.
And has nothing to do with anything. Nothing to do with anything. And now she's dressing up like a Japanese man.
This is terrible.
The day after she burned down the mill. One day later.
I know.
She was prepared to do
How
this.
Insane.
I hate Catherine Martell.
Yeah.
And I hate Mr. Tajimura.
It's so crazy.
If I can be completely honest.
What a crazy thing.
Unacceptable.
And I hate that Pete gets right on board with Mr. Tajimura.
What do you mean?
Like, Mr. Tajimura shows up in Pete's house dead of night.
Yeah.
Although I did like this part, to be totally honest. This is crazy.
It's crazy.
That Pete's just like winding down for night and Mr. Tajimura comes from the shadow.
Oh, it's Mr. Tajimura.
It's so crazy. And he's like, get out of my house, or Mr. Tajimura kisses him because it's Catherine.
Right.
And he's like, you get out of here, Buster. And then she's like, oh, it's me, Stinky, or whatever. And he's like, Catherine. And then he immediately does her bidding, which is something boring about bringing contracts to Ben.
Oh, it's so boring.
Pete is so, look, I've liked Pete. He's like a sweet fellow, but he is absolutely pathetic in this scene, gleefully jumping around the prison with a little cassette tape of Catherine that he's playing for Ben, explaining some boring plan about whatever. He's like, haha, she's got you. But this is his wife who has been sleeping with this man behind his back, and he's just so eager to like gotcha him because he's been sleeping with his wife that he doesn't even get that he's like helping her, who also
just a stooge.
Did something bad to him. This is like cucking on a level that I've never seen. So props to Catherine for that, I guess.
Pete Martell's the ultimate simp.
It's insane. And also the ultimate baby girl, because do you remember that movie Baby Girl that came out like in December?
Kind of, yeah.
So in Baby Girl, Nicole Kidman drinks a glass of milk at a bar because it's a dominant submission thing with her like employee.
Okay.
And so he like has her drink a glass of milk and then lick up milk. It's a whole thing.
Oh.
But so Pete, when he meets Mr. Tajimura at the bar, is drinking a big frosty glass of milk at the bar.
He is the ultimate baby girl.
Right.
Oh, Pete.
Talk about submission.
Pete has really fallen.
Yeah.
I like
and then
Pete
later
quite a
on,
bit.
he's like, I don't mean to insult you, Sheriff, but I was in love with Josie. And I'm like, oh, God.
I know.
They also say that in the final dossier, too. And I was like, Pete.
Oh, Pete.
I really preferred Pete when I just thought he was just kind of like a...
There was a fish in the percolator.
I just want him...
Leave it at that.
Yeah, it's... it's not right of me. People are more complex than this, but for my money, I just kind of wanted Pete to be just like a kindly friend
Yes.
to Josie.
Yes. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah.
So
Listen,
I just needed to bring up
Baby
Mr.
girl.
Tajimura and Baby
Mr.
Girl.
Tajimura. Well, there are all these goddamn subplots.
Yeah.
We get introduced to Jean Renault,
Yeah.
played by Michael Parks, who works at One Eyed Jack's.
Mm-hmm.
Harold Smith, the Tremons. Donna is tougher now. They sing Just You and I for 5 hours.
Well, Donna's tougher now because she wore Laura's sunglasses, which may have imparted
understood.
some sort of magic to her. Because in Fire Walk with Me, she wants to wear something of Laura's, and Laura's like, "Don't wear my clothes" or whatever.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like a whole kind of thing.
Lucy is pregnant. Dick Tremaine is introduced.
Oh God, Dick Tremaine. We're gonna have to reckon with Little Nicky later in the season.
I know.
Sorry, I'll save that for spoilers. Leland's license plate is 710 Yep, which sounds like a radio station.
Kristen's hinting that we're going to watch Little Nicky soon.
Yeah, we are. How was that?
That's a great Little Nicky impression.
Thank you.
Food critic M.T. Wentz is going to come to the diner at some point. They spend a lot of time
MT
talking about
plot
this.
line.
Oh, Kristen. Oh, your wicked tongue. Hank, I guess, sleeps at the Double R diner because at one point,
Yeah, I know.
he comes out in his pajamas in the middle of the night.
I know. Where is he sleeping?
Leo is in some sort of a waking coma now.
Yeah, I don't like any of
Bobby
this.
and Shelley are just completely sidelined. Does anyone go
And
to school
miserable.
anymore? Remember when these kids were normal school kids with a crazy plot? Now no one goes to school.
I don't think so.
They put a party hat on Leo. They're trying to do some sort of a life insurance scheme on him.
Yeah, and they're making like no money on it.
What did you see?
Mr. Bookman's there.
What did you see?
Or no, not Mr. Pitt.
Mr. Pitt is there. Yeah, so many Seinfeld
Although was
characters.
Mr. Bookman there at one point? I don't know.
He sounds like he would be the head of the Bookhouse Boys. But let's face it, Buster. Yeah. You turn that book in when I say you have to.
That's right.
What have you seen of Nadine? I'm not sure if this is because I did extracurricular episodes.
No, she has made her transition.
Okay, she thinks she's a high school senior.
Yeah.
Now.
And she's got
Super strength.
She had some super strength, but her super strength has escalated insanely. She ripped the front off her refrigerator.
This show,
crazy.
when it's dopey, it's so dopey.
Yeah.
But like everything that I just like rattled off as plot lines are things that only work when offset with the other
Totally.
awesome stuff we're talking about.
When they're sprinkled in.
When they're sprinkled,
Yeah.
not when they are front and center.
And they do become front and center.
for a good long while.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into next time.
Yeah. Lots of this music in the background is always a warning thing where it's like bum, bum.
Yes. Oh, it's a huge one. Boo doo 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 doo.
Yeah.
Like, if you could fast forward and see when the audio changes.
Yeah, and be like,
that's-
oh, it's this music for
this
this
song
part.
is
It's
on.
not going to be good.
skip.
Yeah.
Oh God, poor Bobby and Shelley.
I know.
I think it's got to be punishment for Leo for being a bad actor to have to do this now.
know,
His
maybe they
job
were
is to
like,
sit in a chair with
What
cake
can
on
we
his face.
do with him? Well, we could make him kind of comatose. Then he doesn't have to do much.
He went from like, again, not a good actor, but from like in his character's point as a big villain
Yeah.
to now it being funny that he is sitting in a wheelchair all the time.
Just being like, new shoes.
no shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
there's
it's
that.
so-
Yeah. And drooling. It's terrible.
It's so bad.
Yeah. It's awful.
It's so bad. Okay, can we talk
All right.
about the greater context of the whole world?
Yes.
All right. Spoilers now for the entirety of Twin Peaks and everything we just talked about
Yeah.
in context of the entire show.
Yes.
You ready? Mm-hmm. 3, 2, 1.
She's an old woman.
So am I.
Yeah. As am
I How have I not gotten into this? Okay, actually, this is appropriate for this section to kick it off. What we didn't talk about is what opens this season.
Yeah.
Cooper's been shot.
Oh, yeah.
And he's on the floor at the Great Northern. Oh my God, our hero's been shot. What do you do?
Right.
Well, he obviously, he's wearing a bulletproof vest. Smart. But some of the bullets went through.
Yeah.
Right? And he's calling for help. What David Lynch does, because he directed this, I think is so awesome. I've always had a soft spot for this.
Yeah.
The elderly waiter comes in trying to deliver him a glass of milk because he knows that Coop's a baby girl.
Yeah. That's right. I don't know. This was a warm milk.
It was supposed to be a warm milk.
Not a frosty glass of milk at the bar.
I remember
to test how far you will go.
You saw Baby Girl?
No, but I want to see Baby Girl.
Oh, okay. Why do you know all this about Baby Girl?
I scoured the internet for information about Baby Girl.
I'll research Baby Girl instead of just watching it for 90 minutes and getting over it.
I know. No, I will see Baby Girl.
I will see.
I will.
So the elderly waiter comes in, is like, I have the milk you wanted. Not acknowledging that Cooper is on the floor, obviously having been shot, obviously in pain. This drags on for a solid 10 minutes of the old man wandering in and putting milk down. Then he leaves and he gives a thumbs up and winks. And then comes back because he remembers he needed Cooper to sign for the milk.
Yep.
So, and Cooper is just being like, thank you. Cooper never asks for help.
Yep. No, he's just lying on the floor bleeding.
Yes. And this, I think, I love the old man's performance.
Yeah.
This is Tim and Eric acting.
Yes.
Where it's like, this man, I don't know if he's an actor. I don't know what this man's deal is.
Totally.
But
he could just work at a hotel.
I could watch that old man smile, give thumbs ups, and wink at me.
He's lovely.
For as much time as he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
But this is, again, imagine normal audience who doesn't know what they've gotten themselves into with Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
You have a normal cliffhanger at the end of season 1. Someone's been shot. How's it going to be resolved? Well, you obviously want to see that happen right away at the top of season 2. So instead, what David Lynch does is he drags it out.
Yeah.
He drags out the solution to Coop being shot for so long with nonsense, with arguably dead air of an old man winking at you.
Yeah.
I loved it. But I even knew ahead of season 3 coming out, because season 2 is going to end on another huge cliffhanger.
Yes.
I already had sniffed out that season 3 would take the rhythm of that old man winking at you, and it would be even worse.
Yeah.
I knew that David Lynch would waste even more time letting us finally get back to what we want.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen. I had no idea how long he would do it for.
Oof, 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 oof.
I had no idea that season 3 would mostly be the old man scene.
Yeah.
But I love it in season 2, episode 1. And it's like, I remember it being primarily excruciating in season 3, especially when it aired live.
Yeah. Yeah. Week to week.
But I was also not in a good place when it aired live.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hunter Killer.
Yeah.
So I love the old man. Thoughts on the old man?
He's great. No, I also love the old man.
And the old man might be the giant?
Yeah, it seems like he is some sort of, I don't know, emissary, or the giant can kind of communicate through him in some sort of way.
Yes. So the giant himself, he gives those vague hints to Cooper about, the smiling bag, which is a body bag, all that stuff. It almost becomes a pattern with him, because in season 3, it somewhat starts off with the giant saying to Cooper, Richard and Linda.
Yeah.
Listen to the sound. And it's like this weird scratching sound. It's like you could almost smell the, in a normal person's mind, here's how stories work. The giant says a bunch of vague hints. And then the hero goes on their adventure and bit by bit understands what those hints all meant.
We'll pick up on those hints because that's what happened in season 2.
I mean, none of it ever makes actual sense.
Right.
Although I will say, in season 3, that scratching sound, because the giant says something happens when you hear this sound.
Yeah.
It's just like a weird scratching noise. And even when it recurs later in that same season, I don't think it is that's the sound of this happening. It just happens in the air. You're like, what?
Yeah.
But watching this portion of the season, when Bob Leland is killing Maddie and the record is scratching, it's not the same sound. It's not. But I was like, it serves a similar sonic purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a record scratch. Which is a spinning thing with a hitch in it, a cycle that is broken.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
And so, I don't know. I had that reverberating in my head a little bit.
Yeah, that's a cool
Which is also what a ring is.
Yep.
A golden circle, which I guess is some point of completion or something. That's why Coop gets it back when he makes the connections, I guess.
Yeah, I think that is kind of a thing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Back to Leland in terms of the entire greater season. We by and large said it, but I need to say it plainly more for myself than anything else. They stop using Ray Wise forever.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. He comes back for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
In season 3.
And it's interesting. It has interesting implications and stuff.
It is. But like that was so disappointing. I really like season 3, but there are a lot of things about it that are disappointing to me because it's just like.
And I think deliberately so.
I totally think so.
I can respect it without enjoying it.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I feel the same way. But he's just so amazing that it's disappointing to not get more Leland.
It's just a shame not to use him. And again, like I feel like Leland, Laura Palmer, Dale Cooper, and eventually Sarah Cooper, like those are kind of the roles that like I want everything to be
Sarah Palmer.
Sarah Palmer.
Yeah.
That's like what I want everything to be sort of like hanging on.
Yeah.
I want to see all of them
and
see how they are experiencing all the insanity shit.
Yes.
But Leland just dies here, pops up once or twice, although you get all of Firewalk with me.
Yep.
So I guess that you get, but it doesn't feel the same.
No. And that's also something that I get. I think I probably, well, we'll see. I'll see what kind of mood I'm in. But Fire Walk with Me is something that in the order of events, like you're kind of meant to watch season 1, season 2, Fire Walk with Me, and then The Return.
Yeah.
I may or may not rewatch Fire Walk with Me out of curiosity. It's a brutal watch.
Oh, I assumed we would do it when we're done with season 2, you know?
Oh, okay.
It's
so
part
then I
of
guess
it.
I will.
Yeah.
But, well, you don't have to, though. But you
don't have to do anything.
That's true, but you can just watch season 1, season 2, The Return.
You can. Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so I guess I will.
They have all the missing pieces too.
Yeah.
Which I've never watched.
Oh, I have. I have it on DVD.
So do I.
Oh, okay. I lost my train of thought now. I don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Something about Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
About it feeling different and about Leland?
Yeah, I know. I knew that. I don't know what I was about to say about it, though.
Okay,
it's fine.
Fair enough. I also, in terms of just like greater context of stuff, Bob.
Yeah.
So, given what we've seen now of Bob, like he was like a vision of things in season 1.
Yeah.
But also suggested to be perhaps just a real guy.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then even in this, Leland is like, I know who that is from looking at the wanted poster. His last name was Robertson or something. And then Cooper's like, that's why you put the letters under the nails.
Yeah.
To spell Robertson.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Like, why would he do that? I know.
To what end?
I don't like that. It's
talking
dorky.
about?
But it's just, okay.
Leland
what
was
can you
the
do?
son of Robert. He was Bob. Like, what?
I know. All
What?
that was like, woof. It could be woof because things like that have happened so often now that it feels.
Son.
Of course. Right. The classic from I Know What You Did. No, what's it called?
I still know
what you did.
Just terrible. But so
brutal.
Now we see Bob as some sort of a possessing spirit.
Right.
And so he is Leland, but Leland isn't always possessed by Bob all the time.
Yeah, right. And like when Bob goes away, Leland doesn't know what he did. He loses time or something.
Yes. And Leland seems to appears innocent when he's not actively being Bob.
Right.
But Fire Walk with Me is going to muddy those waters significantly of where is the line.
And something also, there's like a line here where I think it's in the last episode. Yeah, it definitely is. Where Bob is talking to Cooper and Harry and whoever else. And he says that that Leland has a hole where his conscience used to be. So that kind of implies that Leland does sort of know what's going on and has kind of had to let it go or something.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Which is just, again, sort of a blurring. Like maybe he doesn't know the extent of it, but he has an inkling that something is going on. I don't know.
Where I presently sit with Bob is that he sort of gloms on to people who are, in some sense, like broken or something.
Yeah.
Right? He can manipulate but he can break you to then
Yeah.
possess you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is what he was doing with Laura.
Yeah, totally.
Through Leland. So, but it's complicated too, because the show at this point at least is kind of like, it was Bob.
Right.
It is Bob, as if he's
Yes.
his own entity. But
Yes, totally.
he's sort of not his own entity. He's kind
Right.
of just a concept of an evil that can compel you.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah,
which
totally.
is weird.
Yeah, the show does kind of act like Leland is sort of like off the hook
Yes,
to a degree,
it does,
and that
yeah.
it's just Bob.
But I don't
it
think
doesn't
he's off
seem
the
like
hook.
it's as clean as that.
No. And especially The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer.
Right.
Like, she talks a lot about dreams. She talks a lot about not trusting herself and there being two halves of herself.
Yeah.
I think Laura was essentially undergoing the transformation that Leland was already at the end of.
Yeah.
You know, like Leland might have been Laura-esque when he was a kid,
Right,
suffering
yeah.
all this stuff before ultimately succumbing to it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely implied that there was probably like a cycle of abuse that he was kind of carrying on.
Yes. Yeah.
So probably.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's dark. The book makes it so dark and
Yeah.
stark.
Yeah.
But in a way that the show will eventually, or the property will eventually do through Fire Walk with Me. And season 3 gets pretty dark. But all the abuse stuff, if they shine too much a light on it or spend too much time on it,
Yeah.
it has this corrosive effect.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that kind of thing. And I know that those themes are part of this from the word go.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? But when you spend too much time on it, all it does is diminish
Yeah.
any kind of quote unquote entertainment enjoyment you can get out of grim subject matter or whatever, which is a weird.
Yeah.
There's like a hypocritical thing of enjoying any kind of dark media.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I want it to be dark, but not too dark.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
It's weird, but the book goes too dark for me.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I feel that way about the book and Fire Walk with Me for me. Like it's, it is at the end of the day is fictional entertainment. So you
Yeah.
can pick and choose what you want to be entertained by
Right.
and what you're enjoying in your off time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that it's like not enjoyable for me. It's a lot for me. So
Too much. Too much. Too much.
Yeah.
The Tremons are going to come back
yes.
in the greater world. I feel like they might be in Fire Walk with Me.
I think they are.
And they definitely, in name only, are in season 3,
Yeah.
including the owner of Laura Palmer's house,
Oh, yes.
like at the very end or something.
yes.
Which is weird.
Yeah. I know. What the hell does it all mean?
I know. I don't understand what anything is.
Yeah.
Cooper, the Major Briggs thing is also going to have major implications.
Yes, and also the advertising leading up to season 3 used that. Like, remember there was a YouTube channel for Twin Peaks season 3 or something?
Yeah, and sometimes it was just David Lynch eating a donut. Remember that? Like the first trailer for season 3 was David Lynch sitting at a desk eating a donut slowly.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember there being, I don't even remember the format or whatever, but there being something written out like Major Briggs's Dispatch from Space, saying something like the owls are not what they seem or whatever,
Yeah.
or Cooper. And also shots of like trees
Yeah.
blowing in the wind with some sort of message behind that.
Yeah,
And being like,
you're
oh
right.
my God, what is this? And I think it was before season 3 was announced. I'm thinking as I'm saying out loud. I think that
Oh.
all of a sudden, like the YouTube account started posting stuff. And it was like, what the hell does this mean?
Cool.
I could be wrong about that part. But I just remember being so excited. I like could not believe this was happening.
I know. I will say, Cooper. You can see on the page there are far more Coopers
Yeah.
that follow that.
Yeah.
And then even in season 3, they'll be like, 3 Coopers. What could it mean? And it's like, oh my God, it's Dougie,
like a million
it's Cooper,
Coopers.
and it's Mr. C or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, well,
Yeah.
when it was first shown, it was just the name being repeated over and over and over.
Right.
And that's obvious. When the retconning is right in your face
Yeah,
sometimes,
totally.
and I catch it, I'm like,
Like,
okay.
nice. Okay.
I mean, if you need it to be 3 Coopers, okay.
then I guess we all have to accept that it's 3 Coopers.
We have to accept that it's 3. I
But-
will accept it, but not happy about this one.
Yeah, totally.
There are a lot of mistakes in Twin Peaks that
Yeah.
that's what I meant last time too, where I'm like, there are mistakes in David Lynch's work that are just mistakes.
Yeah.
But because you can be esoteric and weird, you can just be like, it's all supposed to be the way it is. It's like,
Yes.
well, yes, and I think there are some genuine mistakes.
I know.
Laura Palmer's diary is all dated 1 year too early.
Right.
She died in her diary in 1989 versus the show ends up canonizing it as 1990.
Yes.
It's like, it's messy. It's
totally
messy.
That's happening a little bit right now with Severance, like, and every single little choice that's being made is being analyzed to death, which is super fun. But like and look, maybe this will prove to be something, but I have a feeling it's just a recasting. Like there's a very, very, very tertiary cast member who changed from season 1, which was 3 years ago, to this season, and people are like, they don't do things for no reason. And I'm like, I bet that person just wasn't available or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, I think a lot of times when a show is really brilliant, and there are a lot of things that are like really particularly plotted out, then there's an inclination to think that every single little detail is the same way. And a lot of little details are, but there is also room for things to just be like, look, logistics happen. We had to do a weird thing, or just mistakes.
Yeah, just a true, genuine mistake. It happens.
Yeah.
Any fiction requires a lot of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it requires a little extra suspension of disbelief. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to provide it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll provide it for Twin Peaks because by and large, I like the whole piece.
Yeah, totally.
But
when
I
you
see
like
them.
things,
I see them.
It's like, all right, look, this is also just made by humans
It's
in the
just
world.
human beings. Yeah, just David Lynch was still just a guy. I understand
Mark
the
Frost is
deifying.
a dude.
Just a dude.
Yeah.
I understand the deifying of David Lynch, and I'm fascinated by a lot of his work, but he was just a human being. Just people trying to make stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in the greater context category? There's Mike.
I was about to say Mike. I find the whole Mike Bob thing interesting, and the fact that Mike saw the face of God and then turned good.
Yeah.
This
Who's
is really
God?
this is really back in season what we watched.
It's,
but
it's
but yeah, I think that's all interesting.
Mike. So Philip Gerard is the shoe salesman, and Mike
I love
is
Philip Gerard, by the way. I love him. That's another person who was supposed to be in it for like a hot minute.
Yeah.
And then they were like, this guy's really good. Let's
Just like
expand his role.
Yeah.
Just like Laura Palmer.
Without chemicals, he points.
Yeah.
He's taking some sort of a drug that suppresses the spirit Mike.
Yeah.
That
It's like
is
some
possessing him the way
wacko-
that Bob possesses Leland.
Yes, it's like a wacko cocktail that Rosenfeld has never seen before.
And I also had this thought. Is that part of the reason why Laura Palmer was so into drugs?
Maybe.
With the chemicals can suppress even these magical other dimensional spirits or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it almost sedates them.
That's
You know
an
what I mean?
interesting thought. Because it is not in this. It comes up in Fire Walk with Me, if I remember correctly, and maybe in The Secret Diary. I can't remember. Like, Bob never, like, totally possesses her or whatever.
Right.
Like, she ends up dying basically to keep that from happening. But he can kind of like flit in and out of her a little bit.
That'll be interesting if we do Fire Walk with Me.
Right.
I
Okay.
think it'll be easier to make sense of that. Because I am still doing this, like, with this mixture of as if I'm seeing it for the first time and what do I remember of the greater piece.
I know.
But I think you're right.
So yeah, that's an interesting idea that maybe like doing coke or whatever somehow is repellent. But then also, why would Philip Gerard need to make such a weirdo cocktail if just cocaine would do it? But I don't know. Maybe she just hadn't gotten to that point because obviously it hasn't been totally effective. So
yeah, there's this other theme in Twin Peaks that is like, how many people just walking around are attuned to this other dimensional stuff? Obviously, the log lady has a foot in that world.
Yeah, totally.
She speaks like some great seer a lot of the time in metaphors and stuff. And like Leland is weird. And a shoe salesman, just some dude has weird connections. Like, and if you do Meals on Wheels, you might meet the Tremons.
Yeah.
It's like there's a portion of the population that is just kind of like also attached to this other culture or something. And you wouldn't know it to look at them or something.
It's like the idea of psychics in our world. You wouldn't know, but maybe there are people who are just like tapped into something.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's odd and interesting to realize how expansive this is. Because you like on the surface, you think of it as like Laura Palmer was killed and the killer might have been into weirdo stuff. But no, like even nice people are into the weirdo stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's just, I don't know. There are just some people who are just, it's like the Matrix. You know what it is? It's like when you watch The Matrix and you find out that like a character you like, it's like, oh, they're a program?
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're not even a human. They work for The Matrix?
Right.
Oh, but they're nice?
Right.
It's kind of like that, where it's just like, okay. So there's just a whole other world and people can be good or bad there too.
Yeah.
And sometimes they choose to live here.
Yeah, right.
With us.
Right.
Okay. And they fit in as well as they can, but they can't stop themselves from doing cream corn magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? What's going on? And so Mike, this is confusing. So he used to kill with Bob until he saw the face of God and became good, and he cut off his arm.
Right.
And that is insinuated to be the man from another place. That Mike's arm is the little person who dances.
Right.
All right. And now Mike is nice, and
he only inhabits Philip Gerard to pursue Bob.
So is Philip Gerard his own person? Because season 3, it'll just be Philip Gerard is in like the Black Lodge or whatever.
Right.
Like he's just there still looking like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So wait, what are you asking? Is Philip Gerard just like not
is Mike? I guess let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Bob looks different than Leland.
Oh, I see what you're saying. He doesn't like, we never see him like look in a mirror and there's like another dude or whatever.
Does Mike look identical to Philip Gerard? If Bob here's another way.
I just never see him look in a mirror.
Here's another way to keep Bob around is that now Leland is dead, but the spirit looks like Leland. Bob has evolved because his most recent possession is his latest form.
Right.
I don't know.
Works for me.
I don't know. Because, Frank Silva died too. And
right.
He'll be back in season 3. That's complicated.
Yeah. It's all very complicated.
What is Mr. C in season 3? What's going on?
Season 3 is so crazy.
Can anyone help me?
It's all crazy, obviously, but like season 3 is really not giving you what you want.
No.
Although I do still really like it.
It's withholding.
But it's withholding to an insane degree. I found it so incredibly frustrating to watch in real time. But
I was straight up angry.
Yeah, it was rough.
Hunter Killer was like making me work on stuff that they would like not support me on, and then then they would delay things, and then they'd be like, "Well, why aren't you doing it?" And then I would do it, and they'd be like, "That wasn't very good." And then I'd try to wrap it up to watch the show, and then it would be 20 minutes of watching someone sweep the floor.
Yeah, literally.
And I just remember week after week, I felt so bad in retrospect for you guys, because I would just come in, watch the show, and then be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it was like every week for 2 hours, my life was just people being shitty to me, and then watching something that I was like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
You needed to see it all in retrospect. But in the moment, I was like a ranting lunatic.
It was extremely frustrating,
very
William.
frustrating.
Extremely frustrating. We ended up watching the entire 18 hours, like Will and I did. We just took a day and watched it all. And it was like way more enjoyable doing it that way.
It was magical. You came over at like 6 a.m.
Yeah, it was
we were still
fun.
doing the show then, obviously. I can't believe we didn't make a meal out of that for the show's purposes. Isn't that weird? We just did that while also doing God to the Unknown and never talked about it.
But I think it's kind of nice. We got to
we just did it for ourselves. Yeah, no, it's true.
Rather than have to stop and be like, okay, so here are our thoughts. Like, we can just have a little something for us.
That's true. It's just cool that we did that.
It is cool.
Who watches season 3 as if it is a movie? We did.
That's right.
That's fun.
Yeah, for like 19 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And doing it that way, it was so much better.
Yeah.
But even so, I can't help. I still wish whatever.
I'm excited to see it a third time for whenever we do it.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious because it's not going to be doing it that way.
No.
So I think I'm going to be totally honest with you. I may lose my Twin Peaks fandom card. I think it's going to be a real slog.
You think so?
I do.
Okay.
Lots of Dougie Jones. I don't think I'm going to be amused by that. Doing it not all in one shot as a novelty for 19 hours with you. I think it's going to be...
I don't think it can hurt me
I'd be
anymore,
happy.
personally.
I'm happy to try, but I think that I'm going to be like, oh, yeah.
I know. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, totally.
I want to conclude by just saying that like there's like a feeling, unless you have anything else you want to say.
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. There's a feeling in that last of this portion of the season that we watched, the David Lynch episode, where they're at the Roadhouse and Cooper,
episode 7?
Yeah, episode 7. And Cooper all of a sudden sees the giant standing on the stage at the Roadhouse, and the giant goes, "It is happening again." And Cooper just gets this like somber he's kind of just like being like peacefully observant. Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem to understand what the giant means.
Yeah.
What he's saying is somewhere else right now, Bob is killing again.
Yeah.
Because Leland is killing Maddie while Coop is at the roadhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, it is happening again. And there's like a spotlight on Cooper as he's sort of taking it in. And the old man waiter is also there. And he is almost different now from having been like the silly thumbs up winking man.
Mm-hmm.
He comes over to Cooper and he goes, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And it's like, that I think is like so perfectly embodying what I like about Twin Peaks.
Yes.
That it is weird and it is absurd and that silly old man is here, but he's saying something empathetic. Mm-hmm. And like, we didn't manage to stop it from happening.
I know.
We didn't stop another killing.
So
we
good.
failed. And they're commiserating with Coop, who like is now firmly, as we know through the entire show, like at the start of this journey that is eventually going to see him get lost through all these other dimensions. Like he's going to go too far in trying to stop things from happening.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I don't know. It's surprisingly emotional.
Oh, I totally agree. The end of episode 7 at the Roadhouse is so good. There's that. And it also has like mystery to it at the same time. Not just like who's the giant on the stage, but the log lady seems to be kind of like aware of the giant's presence as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what the hell's going on with her?
Again, everyone seems to tap into like a kind of frequency. Like Bobby's at the bar. And he also seems kind of like touched by something. Donna just starts crying in the booth. Like everyone seems to know.
Yes.
Just by these beings.
It's like they're tapped into the collective unconscious, which I think is not impossible, intentional, because tapping into the collective unconscious is like a big part of transcendental meditation, which is like very much David Lynch's thing, obviously. Just this idea of like an underlying thrum that everybody is kind of a part of and can kind of like tap into. So like them all, just kind of tapping into that. It's so good.
It's so interesting. You know, I also I wanted to take the opportunity while we're going through the series so far. I also, like, in terms of release, there was an audio book, the Diane, the Twin Peaks tapes of Special Agent Cooper, or whatever. It's a 1 hour long thing on Audible, and I listened to it, and it's a mix of the literal audio from the show of when Cooper's speaking into his thing to Diane, but also newly written stuff by Scott Frost, and it like it's.
Do you mean Mark Frost? Is
Scott Frost, his brother?
Oh.
It's tonally all over the map. And even it's just like, personally, I think it's like a master class in audio design. Like they clearly have Kyle MacLachlan in a studio for one tape. And then you hear the tape from the show the next, like 4 seconds later. And it's like, his performance is different. The sound quality is different. The sound effects are different. It's the difference between on location and just standing in a studio. And for my personal like ambition purposes, I'm like, that's a masterclass in just showing like, get out of the studio, or do things differently, because you can just hear how stilted it is. But it's like the silly meter is dialed up too much. In all the new stuff,
like, I don't really remember it.
Cooper, like he's like afraid on the flight over, and then he's like, Diane, I'm on my hands and knees outside the airplane, so thankful to be back on solid ground. It's like Cooper's not on his hands and knees after a flight on a plane. He's just not.
I made a note. Diane like has so much to sift through to get to the information that she needs, because he'll be like, Diane, I'm gonna do 15 minutes of yogic discipline, have a hearty breakfast, and yada yada. And it's like, oh my god, what is her job here? What is her purpose? Why are you telling her all this?
I know. And what does he do? Does he record the tapes and then let it play into a phone for her to hear it? I think
he sends the tapes.
How long does the mail take?
I know.
Twin Peaks, as of right now, he's only been there for like a week. From where we stop. And she's like sending things to him in the mail.
At one point, it's a little bit longer. Somebody asks him how long he's been there, and he says 12 days. And it's like, it's crazy.
How much has happened?
Totally. And he's really enmeshed in that community.
It's like Laura Palmer giving Josie English lessons and tutoring Johnny Horn and doing Wheels on Wheels. And
time works a little differently.
Being the prom queen and working at One-Eyed Jack's. Although when you read the Diary of Laura Palmer, you realize how much coke she's doing.
Right.
And I think that might give her the time.
Yeah.
It might give her the time to do all those things.
Yeah, she gets some time back.
Yeah. All right.
Yep. All right, there you go. So that is our talk about episodes 1 through 9 of season 2 of Twin Peaks. We hope you enjoyed. We will be back to talk about the rest of the season at some point. We'll give you a heads up before we do it so you can watch along too.
Is there any point to bucket that out either, or do we just
I kind of don't
gun
think
it
so.
and blaze through the rest of the season, do the quote unquote bad half?
I kind of think we should just go through the rest of it.
All right, so feel free to watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
At some point we'll talk about it in the future, but it's probably not going to be for a good month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. I can't, obviously, it's impossible not to have all this stuff rattling around in your head. So go in the Discord, drop your thoughts. At
a lot
us.
of people have been watching Twin Peaks in the Discord, so you'll have people to talk about it with for sure in the TV series channel.
Yeah. It's a mind twister.
It sure is.
Patreon.com/GTTUpod if you'd like to support us and get access to that growing archive and listen or watch new episodes of the Netherworld Dispatch as they drop.
Yep.
Tag us online at GTTUpod. I want to survive the night. This will be the final reminder.
Yeah.
Before I just draw names and notify winners. So that's a new graphic novel, choose your own adventure slasher. The main character, Kristen, dies constantly.
And what's the deadline for doing that again? When do you draw the name?
On Monday the 17th, I'm going to be drawing names at the end of the day. So become a patron in the Ghost, Banshee, or Demon tier. Anyone who's already in there, you're already automatically entered. That's the first way to get your name in the bucket. Get your name in the bucket 2 times by posting online, I want to survive the night.
Beautiful.
All right. And I also want, as this book comes out, somebody suggested that I have people send to me how they've colored certain pages.
Oh,
because everyone's going to have a unique experience with it, you know?
That's a great idea.
And I think that's a terrific idea.
It's so cool looking.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Here, Kristen died.
Yep.
See? There you go. You died.
What a shame.
Yeah, I'm gonna screw it.
Yeah.
Kristen died. She just got her throat severed with a razor wire.
It had to happen eventually.
You know the reference?
I don't know if it had to happen that way.
The reference? All right, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. You can also follow us individually.
Yep. I'm at Chillin' Kristen.
I'm at The Myth Traveler. We'll be back next time. We're going to be out of the Black Lodge.
Yes.
But until that time comes, we must travel.
Back to the Netherworld go we. Off we go.
Enough.
That sounds like Beldar.
Maintain low tones. Enough. Put on Twin Peaks. I wish to... Maps. That's him reading The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer.